After being seriously wounded by an IED blast while serving in Afghanistan, my next guest found himself on an entirely new path. His recovery has been marked by intense physical and mental health challenges, but also by inspiring accomplishments. Here to tell us more is former Army Sergeant Sean Karpf. Thanks so much for being here, Sean.
Well, thank you so much.
So you enlisted in 2007, and I've seen that, in part you were inspired by your uncle, but based on the timing, I'm guess probably also in part by 9/11
Yeah, definitely. I was a sophomore when 9/11 happened. So
in high school.
yes, and so it's that definitely had an impact. But in 2007, the housing market started taking a dive, and having a 1 and a 3-year-old at the time, and just trying to survive at a young age. I was 19 when I had my daughter, so like having two kids and then going from working 40 hours a week to not knowing where, my next hours were going to come, if they were going to come, really pushed me into like survival mode. And so that pride and want to join the military is, what led me to go and join.
Yeah, and you were a infantry paratrooper. You served with the 82nd Airborne, um, and you were in Afghanistan. This was about 2012, I believe, when your injury occurred.
Yes, 2012, June 15th, 2012.
Okay.
Um,
Tell us what happened.
so on a dismounted patrol, I was a weapons squad leader. So I was in the back of the formation, and we were walking on a narrow path, and on either side of us there was water on either side. So we saw guys running on a rooftop, probably 350 meters away from where we were at, and they called me on the radio and said, "Hey, bring your gun to the front. We see guys running on a rooftop, and they're setting in to attack us." And so I started making my way, and this path had already been cleared, and so not thinking anything of it, it already had the mine detector out front. So I just started walking with my gunner and the medic, and stepped on a improvised explosive device, and only 25% of that 5 pound or that 5 gallon jug went off. And so after the initial blast, now they have to get me out of there and get me medevaced out. And so, like I said, there was water on either side. So they put me on a litter, carry me to the other side of the water. And then we hear the medevac coming in to land. And once the medevac landed, as soon as it landed and my guys started taking me over to get in the medevac, the guys that were on that rooftop opened fire and started shooting at the helicopter. So they waited for that helicopter to land. And so the medevac had to pick up and leave. And now I'm strapped to a litter, and the guys that were with me are now in a firefight for 5 minutes with the guys on the rooftop. And so then a small gunship came, and a gun started doing gun runs on the building, and then the medevac was able to come in and land and get me out of there.
And I should say, I mean, I appreciate you sharing this story, and I should have prefaced it by saying, if I know that that's a difficult thing to share. So thanks for, reminding us how the injury happened. Your recovery is a remarkable story. If you're just joining us, I've been speaking to former Army Sergeant Sean Karpf. He is a combat wounded veteran. He was sharing his story of how he became injured when he was serving in Kandahar, Afghanistan. Sean, so after this very dramatic rescue, you were flown to Germany and, had kind of medical care initially there. Then you went to Walter Reed, which is, a common place for military folk to recover. But that was, many months and many surgeries. How do you track when, I guess, your recovery began? Was it a physical process? Was it more when you were on the other side of the sort of physical recuperation?
So from the very beginning, I definitely think I have a high tolerance for pain, and so it wasn't the physical aspect of everything. It was more the mental. Right before I got injured, I just re-enlisted for 6 more years and thought that's what I was supposed to do. Do 20 years, and I love being in the military. So getting injured and then leaving my squad behind was the harder part of it, and just not being there because you feel like the father figure when you're molding these young men, and to get pulled off the battlefield and leave them behind, that was the hard part. And I remember like r- like reading messages and stuff like that, like when I was at Walter Reed, and just sending messages back. I remember sitting in the room with my wife just crying, and that, like, to me, that was the hard part, not like the injury, like from like I mean, yeah, putting a prosthetic on every day, like that's the easy part. It's always been the mental struggles.
And you also suffered, I mean, it may go without saying given the fact that you endured that IED blast, but you suffered a traumatic brain injury. And, the mental component of recovering from that experience alone um, can be an enormous challenge, even without residual PTSD. But all of that kind of works together and makes a very difficult path in some cases.
Oh yeah, and like especially having young kids and dealing with PTSD and the TBI, like it changes the way your chemistry in your brain is, and like to go from a happy dad to somebody that just struggles with just your kids are jumping around playing because they're young, just being kids, and like you're getting angry, like that wasn't normal. So I knew right off the bat like something wasn't right, and that's what's hard. Like, and when I talk to people about being a wounded warrior, I do touch more on the mental aspect of it because being like I'm very proud and having that pride, and like I don't want to admit my flaws, and so like having that, like I can't control it, and trying to work through that process has been for me the hardest aspect of this whole journey. And so now when I see other wounded warriors going through those similar instances, now I can have that empathy towards them, and be able to like share my experiences, share where I've been at my low, and where they can see themselves in the future of being able to grow and work on those things.
And so your work with Wounded Warriors Project, I mean, you've been doing it now for, many years. And in fact, you're going to be leading this upcoming 5K, which is a national event, but there's a local component here in Jacksonville. How does that allow you to connect with others or to just sort of represent for individuals like yourself, who might be needing services or might be needing assistance?
And that's the beauty of having a physical injury that people can see, because you know you go out to these runs, there's people that you don't, those invisible wounds that people can't see, that are dealing with things that are far greater than I can ever imagine. And just being able to sit there and talk to them, and they come up to me and like, oh man, you're such an inspiration. And I'm like, this person right next to me is inspiration to me. So um like having that physical injury enables those conversations to get started, and
Mm.
just being you know honest to myself, and be able to like tell people where my flaws are, and where where you can better yourself, and it opens up those doors to have those relationships with other veterans.
Well, Sean, it is a pleasure to meet you. Thanks a lot for sharing your story today. Thanks for the work that you did. And we should say the Carry Forward 5K is November 8th. Registration starts for that at 6:30 in the morning, and an opening ceremony is at 8. You can find more information on our website or at carryforward.woundedwarriorproject.org. Sean Karp, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much.